Morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. I've been asked to make a video today on two processes that I've used hundreds of times in many different cultures, and it's proved very effective. And the goal of the process is to help people to discover where God is calling them to be an apostle and a missionary in the daily providence of their everyday life. This is a process either you yourself can do, or you can gather a group of people and train some people in your parish to do it, but it's very simple. We use the word ministry when we do this because this is the more common word that we've discovered for people, but use whatever words you like. We begin by gathering a group of people in the parish. It could be inviting the parish in general. It could be working with a specific group, a parish pastoral council. We've even done this as a method for a parish mission a number of times. And again, as I say, it's proved very successful. The process begins by asking the question of people, when have you experienced ministry? When you felt that somebody ministered to you? And then we ask the people to just take some time, reflect quietly, and then to share with one or two other people. And people then share their experiences of ministry. We then bring them back to the large group, and we have a sheet made up, and it says in 3 columns, what was happening when you felt ministered to, who did the ministry, what did they do. One time when we were working in Northern Ireland, we were working with the pastoral council of the cardinal. And when we asked that question, when have you felt ministered to, one of the elderly men stood up immediately. And he said, that's easy. And he had tears in his eyes. And he said, when I was 7 years of age, he said, I got sick. We lived on a farm far away from the city. He said, my parents got in touch with one of the neighbors who had a van. He brought us to the city. They brought me into the hospital. And I had to stay in the hospitals. My parents had to go back, and they had to take care of the farm. And I was there for a number of days, and I was very lonely and very scared. And he said, in the very next bed next to me was a boy who was a Protestant. Now, this is Northern Ireland, where the tension between the Catholics and the Protestants was very great. He said, that's when I felt ministered to. And then he answered the 3 questions. Who did the ministry? It was the parents, Protestant couple, who did it. What did they do? Whenever they brought their son ice cream or candy or anything else, they brought me ice cream, candy. They made me feel less lonely, less scared. That's what they did. When he shared that story, what it does, any story like that, and usually we begin by asking people, one person to share a story, is it opens people up to not think just about ministry being something they do in the church, but it's something that they do at every moment of their lives. When the people come back after having reflected, we have them share, as many as want to, the responses to those 3 questions. What was happening? Who did the ministry? What did they do? And then we begin writing that, just keywords on the board. And we ask people as we're going through that to think, what does this tell you about ministry? What strikes you? What do you find important in this or unusual? What surprised you? And then we go through, and as many people as want to share, and then we have that all up there. And what we've discovered is that, first of all, when we ask people, when have they felt ministered to? It's usually when there is some pain, some sorrow, some sadness, death, hospital, things like that. Occasionally it's a marriage or something like that. When we ask people who has done the ministry, most frequently it's a neighbor, a friend, a family member. Very rarely is it one of the professional ministers. And then what did they do? We've discovered that almost inevitably it means somebody was compassionate toward them. But it doesn't come out, it comes out sometimes with the word compassion, but more frequently it's somebody was present to me. Somebody listened to me. Somebody held me at a time when I was really scared and lonely. And that's what it was all about. So now that they have understood what ministry is through their own experiences, we take them back to the first question. Who needs ministry? And we take that in a couple of ways. First, what individuals do you know that need ministry? Secondly, what groups of people need ministry? Third, what social ills need ministry? And then we begin writing that all on the board. And often toward the end of this, after a number of people have responded, somebody will say, everybody needs ministry. And somebody else frequently says, our priest needs ministry. And you affirm that for them. Those are important. The second column that you will have on this sheet is, first column is who needs ministry. The second is who do most people expect to do this ministry? But we have discovered that in most cases, people will say father, 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 sister. I very rarely hear them say brother. But then they start laughing because they realize how unrealistic that is. And so the third question is on the sheet, who else is available? And at this point you say to them, they say, we are, or you may have to push them a little bit on that. But then you can talk to them a little bit about the fact that everyone is called to ministry. Ministry isn't a choice for the Christian. It's the obligation, the privilege, the responsibility of every baptized person. And so you just, a very short presentation, and you share a little bit about that. The fourth question is, excuse me, what gifts do you have? If you're called to ministry, it's our strong conviction that gift and call always go together. That God has given to each person gifts to be used in ministry. And this is where you do the gift discernment process, which will be the second video. And just for right now, just say that's what this is. Fourth step is, what are your gifts? And you take them through that. Step 5 is what prevents you from using your gifts in ministry. We have them again reflect on that and think about it. And then the response usually comes back, the first response usually comes back most strongly is time. I have no time. I'm too busy. Now this is where you really help them to realize about the daily circumstances of your life. And so you ask them, where have you been spending your time? And people will tell you things like, well, my job keeps me so busy. And you help them to realize that that's probably then where they're being called to be a minister. Right there where they're working. I've had some wonderful examples of that as people have shared. People will say, well, you know, my mother-in-law recently died, and so my father-in-law is very lonely. I have to spend a lot of time with my father-in-law, just go over there, have a cup of coffee, and we talk. And you say to them, that's your ministry. Because people still have this concept that you're only doing ministry when you're doing something in the church, and yet their own experience has proven to them that very rarely when they felt ministered to did it happen within the church. It's happened in their home and in their neighborhood and in their workplace. So you find out what are the obstacles. And then the last step is, what do we have to do to overcome these obstacles? And this is a personal reflection. And it's something that I would ask them to write down so that they'll follow through on it. In some parishes where we've done this process for a parish mission, we end up handing them a sheet at the end of the process whereby they can put down, this is my ministry, and this is what I need from the parish to be able to do it. And here is, I will do this ministry for a certain amount of time and then reevaluate it. But it not only then gets them thinking differently about ministry, but it also makes them make a commitment to something and to begin to realize that most of their ministry takes place in the daily providence of their everyday life. The bishops of the United States, and I know there are some of you from different countries, said that the preeminent ministry is the ministry in the world. All other ministry is in support of that. That everything we do in the parish is to get people ready to go out and to minister in the world. The bishops also said in the United States that the purpose of the parish is to feed and nurture people to be a leaven in society. So that what we do in the parishes is we get people ready to go out and to be the apostles. And when the celebrant or the deacon says, go, the Mass is ended, that's where people are being sent out to do that. You'll have some papers to help you with this, and the second video will cover the issue of the gift discernment process. Thank you.